where darkness hides behind every corner, where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders, psychopaths who defy explanation, international war crimes, and millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and welcome to WION World as One. My name is Him Korsaro and you're watching Race to Power. From the tectonic shift in sentiments and growing discontent with heads of state to the race to find Shigeru Ishiba's successor, lots lined up for you on the show. Let's get started. Heads of state in major European countries are facing the same crisis: dwindling popularity and negative public opinion. What is driving the shift? We'll discuss this on the show tonight. And in the United States, the lines between personal and politics blurred yet again. The memorial service for Charlie Kirk turned into an attack on the left and dissenting voices. We'll tell you all about it. Heads of states in almost all major European countries are up against one challenge that's common to them all: dwindling popularity and negative public opinion, from Starmer in Britain to Macron in France and newly elected German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Popularity points of major European leaders are in a nosedive. Starting with the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing strong headwinds. The rise of Reform UK and its leader Nigel Farage is sending shockwaves through Britain's politics. Just over 1 year after the election, Starmer's popularity has slipped to number 2, a whopping 14% behind the leader. Nigel Farage's Reform UK party has surged to number 1 with 32%. Conservatives are at third with 16% support. The sentiment on Starmer is the same on approval ratings. Nearly 74% of the people are not happy with Starmer's performance. His approval ratings now stand at just 24%. Not just this, Keir Starmer's government has been rocked by a series of resignations. First, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, then the dismissal of his US Ambassador Peter Mandelson after leaked files revealed his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. On top of this, public anger is rising over irregular immigration, boat crossings and street protests. Just across the English Channel, French President Emmanuel Macron is also in political quicksand. His government is effectively cuffed with a fractured parliament and fierce public opposition to his budget cut plans. Prime Minister Francois Bayrou's ouster, Sébastien Lecornu taking over, protests by the Block Everything group and the nationwide strikes, all these events happening in quick succession, show that France is in deep crisis. French President Macron's popularity is in the trenches. His disapproval ratings are up in the 70s, 77% to be exact. Approval ratings down into the late teens. The figures clearly suggest Macron is one of the least popular heads of state in Europe. Let's talk about the German Chancellor then, Friedrich Merz, also facing a surge of the right wing. Months after election, Germany's far-right party, the AfD party, has overtaken Merz's Christian Democratic Union. According to the latest poll released by polling agency, AfD is marginally ahead of Merz's CDU with 26%. CDU has slipped to number 2 with 25%. This is the first time that a far-right party is leading in polls in Germany. It extends to Spain too. Spain's socialist prime minister's wife is facing corruption charges. Sanchez has accused judges of political bias over the case. Then the Netherlands is heading to a snap election after the far-right party for freedom left the coalition government over a disagreement about the migration policy. All in all, this ailment of sorts of popularity rates plummeting afflicts nearly all major European powers. The power corridors on one hand and the streets on the other hand seem to be in a major disagreement. For more on this, we now have with us James Jackson, who's a journalist and political analyst. He is joining us live from Berlin. Thank you so much for joining us on Race to Power.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Now, James, of course, we are seeing this plunge in popularity among the heads of state in Europe. What do you think this points towards? I would say it's a major shift that we're seeing right now. What would you say are the major factors driving the shift?
I absolutely think it could be a major shift. This could be the beginning of a new political settlement across Europe where far-right parties manage to enter power. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but maybe next year even. Some people have talked about Keir Starmer stepping down, whether he can be replaced, whether there'll be early elections just 1 or 2 years after he won a record-breaking majority for his Labour Party. But he doesn't seem to be able to have captured the country's confidence since winning that, which was more based on, losing faith in his opponents, the Conservatives, who have also dropped in support massively. In fact, the last poll I saw from the United Kingdom showed that the Labour and Tories, the Conservatives combined, were actually less than Reform UK, the party of Nigel Farage. So really, I think this is a, revolutionary moment for the new right, the far right. And I think there are a number of factors there. I think charisma is part of it. We've got to look across Europe for that. And, if you compare Keir Starmer, who's a sort of lawyerly figure, he's not very charismatic or confident. I think he could have possibly been a good prime minister at a different moment. But this is one where there's dissatisfaction across the West. And immigration has been a key factor in polling. This is cyclical. This often happens in Europe, but it seems to the wave doesn't seem to be ebbing. Now, I don't actually think that's all about immigration. I think in large part, that's actually about inflation, about economic insecurity, and about voters not feeling confident that they can still pay their bills, that they can remain in the middle class. And we've seen historically that this is actually one of the key drivers of far-right support. Ironically, of course, if you don't have migrants, then that likely means that prices are going to continue rising because of labor shortages. So there won't be enough workers out there to be able to work in service jobs, in manufacturing and industry. And that means that's terrible for the economy. So, the far right doesn't seem to have an accurate answer for how to put money back into people's pockets. But the centre right and the centre left, as we see in Germany, in the UK, is not able to capture voters' confidence, and also doesn't have a good answer for inflation, frankly. So if you look at economist Isabella Weber, she writes about anti-fascist economics, which means that fighting against the far right by giving people more money, effectively.
Right, of course, now we've seen protests in France, as you mentioned. We're seeing what's happening in the UK. We're seeing the surge of the right in Germany as well. What would you say, and you mentioned the economy, of course, and the inflation. Would you say that is the common denominator, and what do these heads of state need to do to course correct at this point?
Listen, I do think that the economy is the key point, but there are wider geopolitical trends. There's the fact that the US is treating Europe ever more as a vassal rather than as an ally. The rise of populism, I think social media has plays a role in that. Ultimately, as people get quite quick sound bites immediately, and they're not mediated through the mainstream media, broadcasters, newspapers, in the same way that they used to be, which means that sound bites about stopping migration. We saw actually Zia Yusuf, from the chairman of the UK's Reform, actually said, we need to stop the Boris wave. The Boris wave was a quite cheeky, quite denigrating description of migration during Boris Johnson's premiership. But when millions of people actually arrived in the UK, so arguably the change of pace in migration in certain countries across Europe actually was quite unsustainable. Especially in the UK, because it came just after they voted for Brexit, a vote which was largely about migration. So actually, it seems like the UK stopped bringing Polish plumbers over and started bringing, Bangladeshi bus drivers over, whatever that may be. And I feel like a lot of voters in the UK think they didn't vote for that when they voted for Brexit. And Boris, they feel betrayed by the Conservatives. They feel let down by Labour. And Reform UK, of course, it's not a coincidence that Zia Yusuf is the one delivering this message, who comes from a Muslim background himself. There's another interesting factor about the far right in many countries, which is that it's increasingly not white. So we also see, and not the typical image of straight, white, not, typically, if we look at Germany, we also see that the AfD's leader, Alice Weidel, she's a lesbian, openly living with a woman born in Sri Lanka, not South Africa. So, we're seeing a diversification of the far right, and we're seeing established parties unable to meet the challenge.
All right. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us on Race to Power with your insights on this.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Personal and political lines blurred at Sunday memorial service held for late right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. U.S. President Donald Trump attended the service held in Arizona, where he took to the stage to address the gathering and talk about Charlie Kirk. The tribute took a political turn when the Republican leader said that he hated his opponents. Trump said that this is one aspect on which he disagreed with Charlie Kirk. Listen to this.
In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
Well, you heard that. Trump's address went on to target left-wing protest groups and organizations, also referring to some of them as terrorists or paid agitators, further accusing without evidence that the violence comes largely from the left. Other leaders from the White House also attended the service, including Vice President J.D. Vance and U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. American billionaire Elon Musk was also there, seen sitting next to U.S. President after their very public fallout earlier this year. The State Farm Stadium, that has a capacity of 63,000, was nearly full. Attendees were dressed in red, white and blue to pay tribute to Kirk, who is survived by his wife and 2 young children. Outside the venue, vendors capitalized on the massive gathering, selling MAGA hats and shirts with Charlie Kirk's image on the merchandise. Now, the 2024 Pakistan general elections have come under the scanner once again. The Commonwealth Observer Group, tasked with monitoring elections, is facing criticism for allegedly suppressing its report on the elections held last year. The leaked report accuses Shehbaz Sharif's government of election rigging. In a first, the Commonwealth panel failed to publish the findings in 70 years. Take a look at this special segment on Pakistan power brokers.
Delaying the results so that they can actually rig.
Of widespread speculation of possible manipulation.
Alleging that massive rigging in the results has stolen their...
The 2024 Pakistan elections, held after 2 years of a political storm after Imran Khan's removal as Prime Minister in a no-confidence motion.
The resolution for vote of no confidence against Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, has been passed by a majority.
Elections were held amid allegations of pre-poll rigging and lack of fairness. Observer groups and members of the global community, including the US, UK and the European Union, had voiced grave concern about the transparency of these elections. It took almost 4 weeks for Pakistan to get a Prime Minister. Shehbaz Sharif of the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz was put back in the driver's seat for a second time as Prime Minister. He formed the government with the Pakistan People's Party, which agreed on a power-sharing deal to form a coalition. 1.5 years later, the story remains the same. Allegations of rigging raised by former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party persist even today. An international body tasked with monitoring elections and democratic institutions has been accused of suppressing a report critical of the Pakistan elections held last year. WION went through the report available on dropsitenews.com that puts Pakistan in the dock. In February 2024, the Commonwealth Secretariat sent a 13-member Election Observers Group or EOG to Pakistan to monitor its elections. This is a standard practice for the organization. Headed by the former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, the report put out a positive statement in the immediate aftermath of the elections. But its official report was highly critical of the elections. It said, quote, "We noted with concern a number of factors in the pre-election period that significantly impacted the level playing field, most crucially the non-allocation of the bat symbol to the PTI and the registering of PTI candidates as independents." Rewind to February 2024. Independents backed by the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf won the highest number of seats. But with no party symbol and their leader Imran Khan in jail, the PTI was unable to cobble together a coalition. Most importantly, the report exposed an internet outage on the day of the elections. It said on election day, the failure of the digital results transmission due to the shutdown of cellular administration significantly reduced the transparency of the process. The group noted a number of discrepancies between polling station results forms and tabulated results forms at the constituency level, which may have resulted in some candidates being unlawfully returned. Then irregularities in vote totals via Form 45 came to light.
We will keep protesting. We will fight our case on Form 45.
The Election Commission of Pakistan provides several forms to document results in a constituency. The most important of these forms is Form 45, which acts as a formal record of votes polled at a polling station. The report highlights discrepancies in compiling results via Form 45. All these allegations also led to suspicion that the military establishment was influencing the process to ensure Sharif's success. Down the years, experts and analysts have said the road to power in Pakistan runs through the army headquarters in Rawalpindi, and the elections in 2024 were no different. Sources say the Secretariat informally shared the report with the Pakistan government soon after it was submitted to the Secretary General, after which Pakistan asked the Commonwealth panel to suppress it. It is also reported that then Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland complied, effectively burying a report that highlighted massive electoral fraud that the Pakistan military used to hang on to power. Under normal circumstances, such a report by the Commonwealth Secretariat is published just days after elections. In this case, it should have been done after the Pakistan elections. So why this cover-up? The report is now scheduled for release in end September. Word is the report has been kept under wraps until the UN General Assembly session winds up. It is expected to be made public after Shehbaz Sharif's speech in New York. The coinciding of the release of the Commonwealth Group's report and the UNGA meeting raises eyebrows. Add to that Imran Khan calling protests across Pakistan on the 27th of September. Khan called it a defining moment in Pakistan's political resistance. Who is helping Pakistan to suppress this report? And why did it take so long for the Commonwealth Observer Group to make a statement on its release? Once again, Pakistan stands exposed before the world.
Now the race to choose the next leader of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, is officially kicked off. 5 lawmakers are in the race to replace outgoing Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. These are the images of the LDP opening its campaigning to find Ishiba's successor in Tokyo. The candidates largely focused on the economy and stricter measures to immigration. The ruling party aims to restore political stability and voter support for the beleaguered Liberal Democrats. The party members and lawmakers are set to choose the new leader in an October 4th ballot, who is likely to be elected as Prime Minister by Parliament. The LDP is the largest party in the lower house. The frontrunners in the vote are former Economic Security Minister Sanae Takaichi. If chosen, she will be Japan's first female Prime Minister. Farm Minister Shinjiro Koizumi, who ran in a party leadership race September last year, is contesting this time as well. If elected, he will be the youngest Prime Minister. 64-year-old Yoshimasa Hayashi is contesting for the top job. He has been Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary since December 2023. Toshimitsu Motegi is one of the contenders. The former foreign minister has a reputation as a tough negotiator and handled talks with the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer during U.S. President Donald Trump's first term. 50-year-old Takayuki Kobayashi is vying for the top job. Kobayashi served as an economic security minister under Kishida.
I am going to wash Japan again. I am going to remove all the stains and dirt which accumulated over all these years. I want to realize a fair and just country which young generations will appreciate. In order to achieve that, I, Sanae Takaichi, will progress straightforwardly.
I was fortunate to have various experience within the party and the government. I want to devote everything for this country. I am running as a candidate with such thoughts.
The October 4th vote is not open to the general public. It's limited to the 295 LDP parliamentarians and nearly 1 million grassroots party members. That's less than 1% of Japan's eligible voters. A candidate who secures a majority becomes a party leader. If nobody wins a majority, there will be a runoff between the top 2 candidates in the first round. To be elected as Prime Minister, the new party leader will need votes from some opposition lawmakers in a parliamentary leadership vote to be held within days. Now, another Gen Z protest is gaining momentum, this time around Peru's capital, Lima. Gen Z protesters are out on the streets expressing their anger over government corruption. Protests were led by a youth-driven movement called Generation Z Collective. What began as a youth-led protest against a new pension law erupted into violent clashes that left at least 18 people injured, including police officers and journalists. Demonstrators hurled stones and Molotov cocktails at riot police. Officers responded with tear gas and smoke bombs. Protesters are demanding an end to what they see as a political mafia and a reversal of a controversial new law requiring young adults to join private pension funds, even as many struggle in precarious jobs.
I feel outraged, completely deceived by this government. Congress serves all the political parties, which are like a mafia, entrenched in the state itself.
Human rights organizations and media unions have condemned the police response as excessive force. The unrest reflects a broader crisis in Peru, where organized crime, extortion and low trust in government have fueled public outrage. New polling shows nearly 80% of Peruvians say they're ashamed of their government and 85% feel the same about Congress. With President Boluarte's term set to run until July 2026, many Peruvians now wonder if the country can withstand 3 more years of turmoil. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. News and updates will continue on the other side on WION World is One. Stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome to Fine Print on WION World is One. We are glad you're watching. I'm Eric Njoka. The headlines. Russia offers to keep abiding by nuclear warhead limits agreed with the United States once a key treaty expires next year, but only for 12 months, and if Washington does the same. Striking dock workers block access roads to ports in Italy, and violence flares at a pro-Palestinian protest in the center of Milan as unions staged a day of protest against Israel's Gaza offensive. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, says diplomatic efforts to resolve the dispute over Iran's nuclear program are at a difficult juncture. The Chinese city of Shenzhen evacuates 400,000 people, and thousands of Filipinos seek shelter from gale force winds as Super Typhoon Ragasa heads on its collision course with southern China. A group of bipartisan U.S. lawmakers on a visit to China urged greater military-to-military dialogue between Washington and Beijing. The group met the Chinese defense minister. Gold soared to an all-time high, fueled by growing expectations of further U.S. rate cuts and persistent safe haven demand amid political uncertainty. U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer will acquire Metsera, a maker of drugs for obesity and heart disease, for $4.9 billion. And South Africa wicketkeeper Quinton de Kock has reversed his retirement from ODI cricket. The 32-year-old makes the cut as the Proteas name its squad for the tour of Pakistan. We begin with Europe. Italy has erupted in fury as Gaza protests ignited docked strikes and chaos in the streets. It's one of Europe's biggest demonstrations against Israel's occupation of Gaza. Ports are blocked, transport has been crippled, and Milan has turned into a battleground. Riot police are clashing with stone-throwing protesters flying Palestinian flags. These are the images from Central Station in Milan, where police in riot gear are using tear gas and clashing with protesters. Tensions escalated when dozens of protesters dressed in black and armed with batons tried to smash the main entrance of Milan's central train station, throwing smoke bombs, bottles and stones at the police, who responded with pepper spray. Tens of thousands of people marched in Rome near the main Termini train station as part of a day of action in Italy to denounce the genocide in Gaza.
Because I think it's time to say, enough is enough. Actually, it's probably been time to say enough is enough for a long time, but we've really reached an inexplicable point of no return. There are few words to describe it.
I decided to take part in the strike along with many colleagues because it is right and proper for us to be here today, because we are the ones who will shape the adults of the future. So it is our duty to all children to always stand by our children and by all children around the world. We can no longer cover our eyes in the face of this horror.
In Genoa, in northwest Italy, protesters waved the Palestinian flag during the morning gatherings around the port. Italian dock workers say they want to end to Italy being used as a staging posts for the transfer of arms and other supplies to Israel, which is waging a war on Hamas in Gaza. Thousands demonstrated in other Italian cities. Schools were closed and some public transports were affected by stoppages called by unions. Amid chants and barricades, Italy's right-leaning government is growing uneasy. The government of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is a traditional supporter of Israel within Europe and has ruled out following other Western nations by recognizing a Palestinian state. As a ground offensive in Gaza intensifies, a deadly new chapter is unfolding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is firm on his resolve to completely eliminate Hamas fighters from Gaza. But while the war continues, the world is turning away from Israel's deadly strategy, with several countries joining the wagon of recognizing
The suffering is a human tidal wave. An unbroken column of terrified Palestinians, their faces etched with despair, trudges south, escaping an Israeli assault on Gaza City. They carry their lives on their backs, mattresses, cooking pots, and screaming children.
Enough. We are tired. We no longer have the ability to walk. We will now walk for no less than 20 to 30 kilometers. And I have these belongings with me. Is it possible?
Enough, enough, enough. We have begun to wish to die. Death is better than this life because every day we die 1,000,000 times.
The deafening echo of artillery fire and the relentless airstrikes mark a desperate new phase in a war where victory for Prime Minister Netanyahu means only more bloodshed. While Israel presses a brutally aggressive ground campaign, a diplomatic jolt is shaking the globe.
We are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state.
In a stunning rebuke of Israeli policy, the UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal have formally recognized a Palestinian state. This momentous shift signals a growing international consensus that Israel's war has gone too far. French President Macron defends his nation's move. In an interview to CBS, he says that without a political path, there is no end to this war, except that you kill everybody. He also calls for changes in the Palestinian Authority for a stable peace. With Netanyahu vowing to finish every last Hamas fighter, Macron's words are a haunting reminder of the brutal reality on the ground. As the assault on Gaza City intensifies, the Palestinian death toll has now crossed 65,000. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Russia will adhere to nuclear arms limits for one more year after the last remaining nuclear pact with the United States expires in February next year. Russia expects the US to follow Moscow's example and also stick to the treaty's limits.
To avoid provoking a further strategic arms race and to ensure an acceptable level of predictability and restraint, we believe it is justified to attempt to maintain the status quo established by the New START Treaty during this rather turbulent period. Therefore, Russia is prepared to continue adhering to the central quantitative limitations of the New START Treaty for 1 year after February 5, 2026. We believe this measure will only be viable if the United States acts in a similar manner.
Well, speaking at a meeting with members of Russia's Security Council, Russian President Putin said that the termination of the New START agreement will have negative consequences for global stability. The New START Treaty, signed in Prague in 2010, is the last remaining nuclear arms reduction agreement between the world's top 2 atomic powers and limits the number of nuclear warheads each side can deploy. The treaty, signed by former US President Barack Obama and his Russian counterpart at the time, Dmitry Medvedev, restricts each side to 1,550 deployed warheads and 800 launchers and bombers. It also provides for a series of mutual on-site inspections. Russia froze its participation in New START in 2023, but has continued to voluntarily follow the limits set in the treaty. Its looming expiration and the lack of dialogue on anchoring a successor deal have worried arms control advocates. Talks on extending the agreement have broken down in recent years due to tensions over the Ukraine conflict, sparking fears that both sides will reach the limits once it expires. Russia and the US are the world's biggest nuclear powers, holding about 88% of the world's nuclear weapons. Russia possesses 5,580 nuclear weapons, but the US has 5,044. The war of dominance in Ukraine and Europe continues. On the ground, Russia and Ukraine are trading blows. On the diplomatic front, Moscow and NATO members are trading allegations. Ukraine claims that Russian forces used at least 10 aerial bombs in an attack on Zaporizhia, killing 3 people and injuring 2 others. The governor of the regions say the attack damaged 15 apartment buildings and 10 private homes as well as non-residential buildings. Ukraine's Air Force says it downed 132 drones launched by Russia overnight, while 9 drones were able to hit 7 locations. In Sumy, various drone attacks injured 2 people over the past day. In the capital, Kyiv, 1 person was injured. On the other side, a Ukrainian drone attack on a resort area of the Crimea Peninsula killed 3 people and injured 16 others. Russian Foreign Ministry denounced the incident as an act of terrorism by the Kyiv regime. It also had a message for NATO and the European Union. Look into the mirror when seeking the aggressor on the European continent. Russia also says that NATO countries are escalating tensions with unfounded accusations of airspace violations. Kremlin has denied that its aircraft are violating NATO airspace and warned that countries making such accusations risked escalating the tensions. Countries on NATO's eastern flank have reported spike in airspace violations by Russian drones and aircraft. The latest, Germany's Air Force said it intercepted a Russian reconnaissance plane of the Baltic Sea. It said 2 Eurofighters were sent to track a Russian Il-20M military aircraft that had entered neutral airspace. Estonia has claimed that 3 Russian fighter jets entered its airspace on Friday, remaining there for 12 minutes before being escorted out by NATO aircraft. NATO ambassadors will convene on Tuesday for talks on the incursion after Estonia called for urgent discussions under Article 4 of the alliance's founding treaty. But the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, denied Estonia's version of events, saying the Russian military operates strictly within the confines of international law. He alleged that Estonia was trying to ratchet up a confrontational atmosphere and it had no evidence to back it up. The Pakistan Air Force reportedly launched airstrikes in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on Monday, leaving at least 30 people dead. Reports also say that there are several women and children among those killed. Now, the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan has expressed shock of deaths of women and children in the bombing. A purported video of the bombing has also emerged. Another report claimed that at least 8 bombs were dropped from fighter jets on Matre Dara, a Pashtun majority village, at around 2 a.m. According to local media, several people have also been injured. Iqbal Afridi, a member of the National Assembly from the district, has alleged that Pakistani Air Force fighter jets carried out the strikes, resulting in 23 deaths at the moment. Neither the provincial government nor the federal government has yet released a statement on the incident so far. The provincial branch of former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party, PTI, shared a post on social media claiming that jets dropped bombs in the Tira Valley in the province. The post said that 5 houses were destroyed and at least 20 bodies have been recovered from the rubble. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan said it was shocked to learn that a number of civilians, including children, have been killed, allegedly as a result of aerial bombing. It demanded that the authorities to carry out an immediate and impartial inquiry into the incident and hold to account those responsible. The Commission slammed the Pakistani government, saying that the state is constitutionally bound to protect all civilians' right to life, which it has repeatedly failed to secure. Super Typhoon Ragasha, the most powerful storm of the year, is battering the Philippines with winds exceeding 295 kilometers per hour. After pounding the northern Cagayan province, it is now moving westwards over the South China Sea. Meteorologists have classified to a Category 4 hurricane. Unleashing powerful winds and widespread devastation across the Philippines, the typhoon is now charging towards Hong Kong, Taiwan, and southern China's Guangdong province, where it has prompted the evacuation of over 400,000 people from low-lying coastal areas and forced the cancellation of more than 700 flights in Hong Kong. Authorities in China have warned of a catastrophic and large-scale disaster in Hong Kong. Weather officials say conditions will deteriorate rapidly by Tuesday. Hong Kong airport authorities have suspended all flights with a 36-hour